Greetings from the floor of the International 2024 Bio Conference. I'm Duane Schulthess, and on this Vital Health podcast, I'm speaking to Virginia Amann, CEO of the Entente Network, one of the top firms of its kind in the world. The Entente Network encompasses expertise in health and science, health and hospital, behavior science, and media. Their clients include public and private sector companies of all sizes and shapes, as well as foundations and nonprofits. Virginia, it's been a long time. It's great to see you.
It's wonderful to see you in person, Duane. Thanks for having me.
The last time we were together, we were drinking a very fine wine in Madison, Wisconsin.
It was good stuff.
And here we are in San Diego. So look, you've built this company, and it's really one of the top firms for comms and strategy and management of crisis. I mean, you're really at the front and center of so much.
Thanks, Duane.
Why don't you tell me a little bit more about your network?
Yeah, I mean, people always ask us what we do. What do you do, Virginia? And I say what we do is we get to a yes, right? So our work is strategic communications. We combine that with marketing communications. But our goal is really to get investors to a yes, partners to a yes, policymakers, patients, customers, whoever your audiences are. We want to help them. We want to help you move them to a place of saying yes to you and removing the barriers and creating the influence and surround sound that it takes to make that happen.
So you've had a very busy week at Bio. Why don't you tell us, I mean, you've had press releases, comm sessions, you've been in endpoints. I mean, you've had a bunch going on. So what's been up?
Yeah, we had a great week. We have lots of clients here at Bio. We work with private and public companies in biotechnology and life sciences. So it includes diagnostics companies, medical devices too. But we also work with foundations and nonprofits. For our biotech companies, we have a lot of them here at Bio this year presenting. Some of them are on panels that we help put together in conjunction with Bio. A lot of them broke news here this week, had a great endpoints exclusive on behalf of one of our clients that just raised a Series B. So we've been doing lots of good media relations work here, good bilateral work, so helping people connect with other people who are important to their business. But we've also been sourcing stories for our EN Media publications. We have our own independent journalism publication where we talk about and champion stories in the bio industry that are impacting people's businesses or could be interesting investment opportunities.
So how much of this comes from the fact that a lot of the companies have been downsizing and outsourcing? Do you find that then you can come in and deliver expertise more efficiently, or at least with a better ROI for the company than what they would do if they have to insource themselves?
For small companies, I really think the agency model, if you're looking for marketing communications, strategic communications, or some combination of those two things, is a better way to go. It certainly will help to reduce costs, make things more efficient for you, and it enables you to bring more capability to bear than you'd probably be able to hire in-house.
So you had a successful career, first at Porter Novelli and then J&J.
Yeah.
You were, I knew you when you were at J&J.
Sure.
Yet you decided to jump ship in what is quite an uncertain economy and very difficult, certainly the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to go out on your own? What was the motivation?
Yeah, I was actually at a small biotech life science focused communications firm many years ago. I started my career out there here in San Diego, actually. Mm-hmm. We sold that company to Porter Novelli. And this was in 2005, so I'm dating myself here a little. And they bought us. I stayed with them. I was running all the Johnson & Johnson business for them globally. And then Johnson & Johnson, after Paul Stoffels became the chief scientific officer, really needed more help. So I started working with them. What I found was I was hiring a lot of other agencies to help support the work. So I wasn't hiring them. J&J was hiring them, and I was helping to evaluate their proposals and figure out how they could help us best, and then helping to manage and keep the work on track from a strategic perspective. What I found was that none of them really did the thing that we do really well at Entente, right? And that was a gap in sort of what was out there. I also found that J&J needed some more support. They needed some scale up. They became our anchor client when I decided to create the agency. And it enabled us to really just serve them better, and also to be able to provide our services out to other smaller and large entities as well.
So last month, if I'm not mistaken, at the 22nd Annual American Business Awards, they named you the winner of the Silver Stevie Award in the category Communications, Investor Relations, PR Executive of the Year. I mean, it may sound kind of funny, but actually this is a pretty big deal. I mean, I'm aware of the Silver Stevies from my time at the Wall Street Journal. What is it that you think you do better than other firms? What's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
What are you delivering more than other firms?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Thank you. And I was really thrilled to win the Stevie this year with Maury Smolvitz over at Exact Sciences, who is, somebody I respect tremendously. I think what we do better than other people is we understand the power of social capital development. And I always tell people that we put that really at the center of our business. So for us, it might be about employing tactics, right? Media relations might be a tactic in what we do. Maybe marketing communications, doing some type of social marketing by leveraging LinkedIn to say, talk to investors. That might be a tactic under our umbrella. But everything we do is really driven through the lens of social capital development, meaning that we're about creating the relationships and the influence that you need to get the job done, whatever that job may be. And we develop and design custom packages in conjunction with the C-suite, typically is our client, or sometimes senior level in communications, to do that better for companies. We can do it at a very large level, like we did for Johnson & Johnson, where we were doing, large scale impact across global health and R&D at places like the World Economic Forum, or we can do it on a much smaller scale for people who maybe have only raised a Series A and they're looking to do things in a more economical way.
So you've mentioned J&J a few times, and Paul Stoffels, who was one of the innovators on HIV drugs and was the CEO for a while.
And a tremendous leader.
Absolutely. Now, I was just brought into the Senate Commerce Committee last week to have a discussion around some legislation that's currently coming out. And there's increasing, shall we say, rhetoric, noise around this idea that all manufacturing for the U.S., if U.S. funding is involved from the public sector, should be brought into the United States.
Sure.
Now, if I think about the time I cut my teeth at J&J, but J&J's normal R&D operation is Janssen in Beerse, Belgium.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a huge operation in Belgium. Novartis obviously has a huge operation in Basel.
Sure.
What would this mean to your clients both from an actual practical application, and how do you think you will handle this from a comms perspective? And I'm throwing you a curveball here.
Yeah, no. I appreciate the question. First of all, it's a global world. I mean, bio is a global business, and it needs to remain a global business, I think, to better serve patients, actually, and also to enable companies to operate in the most efficient way. That being said, I understand what the motivation is at the policymaker level for thinking about why should we bring this back to the U.S. And keep it here. I understand what they're thinking. Part of what we do really well at On Town is we look at how people are incentivized, right? How are policymakers, why are they thinking the way they're thinking, and how are they incentivized? How are businesses incentivized to succeed? Our goal is to find the alignment between those things, and we can do that in challenging times. Actually, sometimes that's the best time to engage us, is when things are, your business is under pressure, and you need to find a way to communicate better with policymakers about the advantages of doing things your way, or we can do it in good times. So from a business impact perspective to us, problems are always good. I mean, let's face it, right? We can help people
Burglar
solve
alarms
those.
are great in a high crime area,
we can help you solve those problems. That's what we do. We're great problem solvers, but we're also really good at capitalizing on opportunities that are coming down the pike.
So if we look at the biopharma sector in the United States from the year 2000, certainly 2004, from the development of the Medicare Part D prescription drug benefit, I mean, the industry's been a huge driver of growth of the U.S. economy. I mean, healthcare is 20% of GDP.
Sure.
Pharma is close between 13 to 15% of that. I mean, this is a huge sector, and the U.S. now produces 60% of the novel original intellectual property that goes into FDA Type 1 approvals.
Sure.
I mean, so huge success story. Yet, if you look at the last 4 years, 6 years, if you go back to HR3 and MFN and IPI and all this other word salad about basically price controls on the industry's been under enormous attack from Washington, D.C. and politicians. Indeed. And now the pricing boards in the member states. I mean, it's an onslaught from all angles. What the heck has gone wrong? What have we done wrong, people who work for the sector? I mean, not you, obviously, but our firm. What's going on? What have we done wrong?
First of all, I think it comes down to folks who are working in the industry not understanding that in today's world, and this is true where it comes to trust in science just as much as where it comes to the public valuing what the biopharma sector does, Authority today is distributed. It's no longer sitting among the few. It's actually with the many. And our industry, I think, missed the beat on that. It's a change that really happened about 5 years ago, I would suggest, with a rise in the way that social media was happening. COVID exacerbated that or sort of, I wouldn't call it a problem. It's a phenomenon, right? Where COVID exacerbated that, where people are sort of bringing the power back to themselves and asking, why should a small number of people have the authority, right? So when it comes to this issue, which is really how the public values, right, what the biopharma industry is doing, the sector did not rely on the fact that every single person uses pharmaceutical or products that were developed in the pharmaceutical or biopharmaceutical industry every single day, just about, right? I mean, we all take either over-the-counter medications or we're on prescription medications that are making our lives better or sometimes even saving our lives. But the industry did not tap into the power of distributed networks and individual people to help tell the stories about what was going on. They under-leveraged that as an opportunity, I think, starting many years ago, but they really had an opportunity to lean into that 5 years ago. Didn't happen. And I think to better storytell to policymakers who were ultimately making the decisions about the policies that impact the industry, right? They didn't lean into that lever as an opportunity to change things or to move things forward for the future. You
brought up COVID. If you look at some of the news this week, what we've been hearing the last couple of weeks about documents being destroyed, people trying to avoid FOIA.
Yeah.
Obviously the leaked documents that showed that there was a concerted effort between NIH and FDA to censor Jay Bhattacharya and Martin Kulldorff, who now a lot of the things they've been saying are coming to be actually on point and correct.
Yep.
How much damage has the government federal response to COVID and the sort of seemingly complicit angle that the industry played tacitly, how much damage has been done on the industry reputation due to this, do you feel, because of the response to COVID?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I've worked in a number of councils related to trust in science and actually looking at the data, right? Really understanding the data. The data actually show that the impact to reputation of the general population around the biopharmaceutical industry has not been that great, but the impact to public health authorities, how they feel about public health authorities, has been huge. And that, again, is an issue of not understanding that authority is now distributed, and you need to respect, any relationship that you're building. And a lot of our work is about building positive relationships that are going to get you to a place that you want to be. Any relationship that you're building is based on trust. What happened, I believe, and I'm probably a little bit out on a limb here, with the COVID response.
It's okay. You're among friends.
I'm among friends. With the COVID response is that the authority stopped trusting their publics and stopped respecting their publics. And even today, and I've gotten a little bit, I want to say I went off a little bit of the trust in science thing, because what I saw was a bunch of people who feel that they're owed the authority by virtue of the fact that they've been in the business for a long time, or they've been working in policy for a long time, whatever it is. They feel that they're sort of owed that authority, and they get in rooms and they talk about how everybody else should trust them, but they don't go out there and actually spend the time to develop the relationship, listen to their publics, right, and what they're telling them. Why should a regular guy sitting in his house and wherever it is have a direct impact to his body, his physical body, and possibly even to his economic standing, right? By decisions that are being made by somebody he doesn't know, has never talked to, and really has no relationship with, right? And I think that was a missed beat in the sort of public health response. One thing that Johnson & Johnson did really well, I think, during that time, that I feel very proud to have worked on, was a series called The Road to a Vaccine. Mm-hmm. And what we did there was we took Johnson & Johnson out of it, other than being the sort of sponsor and platform. We brought in a third-party moderator, and we did it live. Trust me that this was not easy to get through. To get through the legal.
I'm sure the compliance and legal folks were just thrilled about this.
The legal folks were not thrilled about this, but it was really important, right? Because we made it. It was live, so it wasn't engineered, so to speak, behind the scenes. Nobody had talking points. And we brought in public health authorities, nurses, doctors, patients, people who were working in patient advocacy, to come in and talk about what was really going on. And we had a third-party moderator who was asking the questions, and we opened that up to the public, where they could actually ask questions directly to people like Ashish Jha, right? To people like Tom Inglesby, to Francis Collins, right? And actually get that direct connection going where they were able to post their questions onto LinkedIn, onto X, onto Facebook, and those questions were actually addressed live. Now, I think that kind of thing is what needs to happen in the industry if you want to build a long-term trusting relationship with the publics who are ultimately using your products, making decisions about policy by influencing their policymakers, and are impacted by public policy decision making.
MIT did a really interesting study where they looked at behavior online because it's like, oh, well, you have these echo chambers and fake news on Twitter and X, right? Yeah. And what MIT actually founded was, no, actually what's happening is you get these communities where they're actually debating the data and they're coming to actually well-informed opinion.
This is what I'm talking when I say distributed authority, this is what I'm talking about, right? That the authority actually lives with the people now, and they decide actually what's gonna happen. Either they're deciding it through their policymakers or they're deciding it directly by saying, hey, I am or I am not going to be vaccinated, for example. So
yeah, and what was intriguing was often those opinions were actually based on an informed choice.
Yes.
And that's what MIT found. And it was sort of, I think they went at the study to sort of say, yes, these people are rubes and they don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. When in fact, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, they are making an informed decision. Right. They are valuing the evidence. Right. And they're making an informed benefit risk assessment on their own.
About things that matter to them. Right. Absolutely. And that's I think when you stop respecting your publics, that's an immediate indication that trust is breaking down and things are going to go bad. And the publics understand when people have their best interests at heart, when they're being listened to, when they're being respected, and they respond really well to that. And they respond to, I think, people who are speaking to them in a way that has integrity and in a way that is authentic to whoever it is that's speaking. And that's another piece that I think sometimes our industry misses. We start funneling the industry's voice through third parties, and then it sort of loses some of that integrity and that authenticity that I think would help to create those relationships, those positive relationships with the public.
Picking up on that, there's almost a cliche now that, oh, we're putting patients at the center. I mean,
Every company says it.
Yeah, I know. You're laughing too. I get it. All right, fine. Now, we're hearing increasingly from staff on DC, that we work a lot there. And they're saying, look, I'm tired of these patient groups coming in. It just seems like it's AstroTurf. It's not legit.
Right.
So how do you determine what's a good and a bad advocacy strategy? Because obviously patients are important.
Sure. But
it's becoming almost a cynical ploy. What do we need to do better there?
Right. Well, this actually goes back to the authenticity of the voice, right? And to respect, right, of patient groups, patient advocacy groups. I actually think today we have a bigger opportunity than ever to lean into patient advocacy work because authority is distributed and it is now in the hands of the patients who are doing things and can help you with adcoms, who can help you with regulatory decisions, who can help create the surround sound that you need to get things done, that you can get to a yes. And I think that the opportunity today is stronger than it's ever been. There are more groups, there are more specialized groups. One of the things that we did recently was we designed a program that was based in behavior science, which is a specialty that we bring forward through our behavior science unit at Entente. That really looked at the behaviors of people who had a particular disease condition. And we were able to design a clinical trials program that helped to up-level their stories. And we could really reach out directly to them, to the patients, as opposed to working just through physicians. And again, that's kind of leaning into the idea that authority is distributed and really with the patients today. I think that's an example of a good program. In fact, our client was worried that they weren't going to meet their clinical trials enrollment metrics that they had shared with the street, and we were able to help them actually get it done in time with the strategy.
I know Pat Furlong from Patient Parent Muscular Dystrophy, the global organization.
Sure.
And she told a story where there was a clinical trial for a muscular dystrophy product, and the parents were very engaged, so engaged, in fact, that somehow or another they were getting a hold of the imaging. And they were unblinding the stool.
Oh, okay, yeah.
and trying to figure out
That's a very engaged patient population.
That's a very engaged patient population. But I mean, this is the reality that we're getting to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people are going to be informed that where they don't expect it. And I've had, I'm not going to say whom, but I've had, medical professionals come to me and say, oh, that's terrible. They can't possibly figure it out. And it's like, you know what? I bet they can.
Yeah.
I bet they can.
Yeah.
So do you think that's a good thing? I mean, for them to be, we need to harness that, I'm assuming.
I mean, an engaged patient population is always going to be good. I mean, maybe not in this case, but almost always going to be good. Usually it's, there are a lot of organizations vying for the attention of patients. This can also be a problem. So the programs that stand out are ones that are personal, that really lean into narrative, that lean into providing resources for patients that they might not have otherwise, and that are really about creating a conversation and activating patients to activate the people around them. Those are strong programs.
I guess if we look at the current risks to the sector, aside from everything we're talking about, pricing and everything else, intellectual property is increasingly becoming a hot button issue. March-in rights. Obviously, we've done an enormous amount of work on that. That's been heavily cited in the U.S. Congress.
Yeah.
How are your clients, first off, are they concerned about this? I'm sure they are. And how are you being asked to address this issue?
They're concerned. We've developed message tracks for many of them along these lines. But this is another area where I think that the industry is not relying enough on the power of distributed authority. There are, a couple million people working directly or indirectly in our industry. All of them have really important voices that you could activate and leverage to create change at the policy level, right? And that's not being done. And I think it should be. I think having a message track is important. It's really important for companies to know what they say, what stance they're going to take on some of these issues. But that's not enough. You really need to engage. You need to start engaging. I think this is a role that bio could be playing, potentially to bring and to activate the companies themselves, the employees at the companies, and even their families, toward a policy that is positive for the industry. When
we released the study that front ran the Biden administration's release by 6 days, people thought we had some grand Machiavellian plan. We didn't actually. It was just dumb luck. The timing just worked out well. But it was really interesting because the same activists who've been speaking out about this, Jamie Love being one of them, Kesselheim another, I just realized, no one from the industry has been pushing back. They're not allowed to speak to them. They're not allowed to engage on Twitter.
Right.
And, they've had free run on this for decades.
Right.
And I remember when we released our study, I finally said, you know what? No. And I put my feet up and I pulled out my Twitter and I'm like, no, Jamie, you're now going to have a real argument here.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I started going after and just saying, no, that's incorrect. That you're citing this case. That case, they actually were found guilty in federal court of violating the patent before they applied for margin rights. You're wrong. And it was just, and all of our clients were like, oh, this is great. This is fantastic. It's like, you could have been doing this for 10 years.
Right. But the conventional wisdom in communications up to this point has been that you don't lean in on any of these issues. You let a third party do it for you. And I think that's been an important role for bio, for pharma, and for others. But my belief is that things have changed and it is time to activate the community broadly with a view toward changing the minds of policymakers and really the broader public as well.
And I think if we look at some recent instances, sticking with the intellectual property theme, look at the TRIPS waiver.
Yes.
I mean, this is one where no one said anything. We were told, Dr. Joe Hamming and I, my business partner here in the U.S., we were told flat out by many of our clients, no, we don't see IP as an issue. We don't think it's a problem. And then lo and behold, bam. And this has been in place for 5 years. Yeah. There's been millions of dollars put on this campaign. You have Ellen Tahone in Groningen University who's been working with the WTO to push this through. And we were warning people, red flags, saying, hey, you got to do something here.
Pay attention.
And no, we don't see a problem here.
Right.
And now it's too late.
Right.
So do you think they will, are they hip to this, Virginia? Are your clients, are they going to start pushing back a little more?
My advice to our clients in general is lean in on the issues that actually impact your business. It's time. Number one, don't lean in on the stuff that doesn't impact your business. And I think that we're starting to see a lot of third party, not third parties, but people who are outside the industry who are saying, we're not going to weigh in on social issues that don't actually have anything to do with our core function, right?
Imagine that.
And I think that with that to our mind, that's wise unless you have a really activated, community that cares about a particular issue. But usually it's better to let stuff go that's not within your core competency, but definitely to lean in and have a conversation around the stuff that is. And these issues are absolutely within the wheelhouse of every biotech executive, anybody that's working in the industry or in pharma.
So with everything that's going on, where do you see the sector in 24 months? What do you think is going to happen?
24 months is a pretty short timeline, actually, right?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can get this inflation under control, that interest rates come down. I think that might open up some investment into the private sector, companies that are looking to raise Series A, Series B, even Series C, which may result, I hope, in a wave of new innovation, new breakthrough innovation that right now is a little bit on the shelf, right, due to some of the challenges with the risk assessment that companies are making, investors are making right now, in part because of some of the legislation coming
IRA,
down.
absolutely.
Right. But that may change. Maybe that opens up a little bit of investment there, and some of that innovation can come forward. I hope that's the case, because I think it's really needed for patients. This industry, we're so on the cusp of doing things that really make a tremendous impact for patients, that change the way they're being treated, and that can ultimately extend their lives, improve the lives of their kids. Everybody should care. Everybody should care. And I think, I hope that the industry gets itself together and starts activating some of the voices of the patient communities, the regular people who are using the products, to be able to advocate for the industry as a whole and better understand and value what's happening in this industry.
So what's up for the Entente Network? Where do you see yourselves in 24 months? I mean, you've had tremendous growth, Virginia. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's impressive.
Thank you, Duane. I appreciate that. It's been a really fun ride. I always tell our entrepreneurial CEOs that come to us, like, I've been there with you, in starting a company, growing a company, scaling it up, and it's a ride, and we understand the ups and downs of some of that. But we're in a really good place right now. We are actually adding new capabilities and doing some things that we think will help get out in front of some of these trends. One of the things that we've done is we've brought together marketing, communication, social marketing expertise with behavior science, with strategic communications. And you put those three things together, you have a pretty sexy offering that really can solve any number of problems for people and activate communities wherever they are, whatever communities you need to activate, even if that's direct Marcom approaches to, say, the venture community. We are starting to build that kind of thing for our clients. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, Virginia, it's always great to see you. It's been too frequent in the last few years.
It's great to see you, Duane, and so fun to be here with you and with Joe and the team.
Thank you.
You're doing great work.
Thank you, and you too, and we wish you all success.
Thanks so much.
The executive producer of the Vital Health podcast is Duane Schulthess. Our editor is Mark Brodeen. Our project manager is Gwen O'Laughlin. The Vital Health podcast is a production of Vital Transformation, LLC, copyright 2024.